And now we have our final presented for today, Tanya Straker, who is absolutely fabulous. I know you're going to love her. I also had her on my radio show, and she has a great book. So, Tanya, take it away.
Okay. Well, thank you, Linda. It is such a pleasure. It is my pleasure and my privilege to be here today presenting. Let me just get my slides correct.
Okay.
I thought I had them ready.
That's what everybody says. It's just what happens.
Didn't I take care of this? All right.
There you go.
And are you seeing?
Yep, we see everything we're supposed to see.
Just my slide, or do you see everything?
I see everything. I see the
You see
slide.
everything, and I don't know what happened to that. You should not be seeing everything. So just one more moment. So if just give me 1 second so that I can, I was told that if I did it in advance, you would not see me doing this. Okay, and show. Okay, let's go to Zoom. Let's go to share screen. Let's go here. Let's go there. Let's go here. Let's go to slideshow. And here, okay.
There you go, you got it.
All right. All right. Nope. Sorry.
Yeah,
I hate this. I'm sorry. One more time. Let me try it one more time because now I don't have my notes.
If not, if we see the whole thing, it's fine.
Yeah, that might be what we end up doing.
That's what another presenter had to do.
Maybe that's what, yeah, the first presenter.
Yeah.
Yeah. For some reason. All right. So yeah, so I would rather do it with my notes than not do it, so that I don't run out of time. So you will see my full view, presenter view. Sorry. Okay. Start. Let's do this one more time. Cancel. View. Presenter view. Okay. So hello, everyone. It is certainly my privilege and my pleasure to be presenting to you today. My name is Tanya Straker, and I am a better life coach for family caregivers. Why? Because I want every family caregiver to have a better life. I want you to have a better life while caregiving, and I want your caregiving experience to set you up powerfully for whatever comes next. Every day, I continue to be in absolute awe of how my life transformed through my caregiving experience. And I developed the skill of living so that now I know that my life will continually feel better to me. It's better and better and better. It just keeps getting better. That was the gift of caregiving for me. But believe me, it did not start out that way. So I'm inviting you to join me on my journey to beating burnout and to creating a better life for myself, and inviting you to think about your own self, how the hacks that I use could be something that could be useful to you on your caregiver journey.
Perfect.
So now a little context before I jump into my story. So, I'm talking about hacks. So what's a hack? Well, a hack is an action that's doable, it's sustainable, it's reliable, it yields the good results over and over and over again. And the hacks that I'm going to share with you today are life hacks. So I will not be helping you figure out how to choose the best skilled nursing facility. I won't be helping you figure out how to better interact with your care receiver as they are going into the late stages of Alzheimer's. The focus in this presentation, it's just where the last presenter finished, right? When you asked him, what was the last thing he wanted? What did he want everyone to, what is the last thing he wanted? What did he want to leave everybody with? He didn't talk about technology, right? He talked about us taking care of ourselves as caregivers, right? So that's exactly where that is the total focus of this presentation. And so even though I'm going to share 6 life hacks with you, in fact, there's only one message. I'm seeking to encourage you, to excite you about intentionally setting an intention to grow your life through your caregiving experience, because your life is not on hold.
Right.
Right. So I want you to think about your life as a coin, like, so there's 2 sides to it. You have an inner life and an outer life. Your outer life are where you see the results of what happens on the inside. You decorate your room, you create a meal, you have a professional life, you have all of these caregiving tasks. And the caregiving tasks that you have on the outside, that you do on the outside, you attach a meaning to them on the inside. And the meaning you attach to how you're spending your time and what you're doing, I contend that that's the core, that's the foundation of why we end up feeling burnt out. Do we attach a meaning to our caregiving that elevates that elevates our satisfaction with life, or how we're spending our time, does it somehow detract from our satisfaction with our overall satisfaction with life? Okay, so in the end, this is what we're looking for. We're looking for whatever's happening whatever you're doing on the outside, that the inside of you, the conversations that are going on in your head are aligned with that in terms of how you are currently, what you are doing in your current present life as caregiver, and understanding the benefit that this provides for you for how you experience the future. So you're connecting your current caregiving tasks with how you feel life now and how you want to experience life in the future. So with that, I'm going to jump into hack number 1, and that's the question around which my life is oriented, which is, how do I want to feel? Well, how am I feeling, and how do I want to feel? Right. And so I want you to think about that. And if you can even go ahead and put in the chat, well, this is how I'm feeling right now, or this is how I'm feeling about caregiving, and this is how I want to feel. So the hack is, the language I'm using is dare to know how you want to feel. And that word dare is really important, because my first 5 years in my caregiving experience, probably 5-6 years, I didn't bother to ask that question. How did I want to feel? What was the point? I was doing this caregiving thing and I was committed to doing it. So therefore I was just going to keep doing it no matter what. And because everything was.
One of the listeners said, I feel very sad and I don't want to be sad anymore. Another one said, I feel isolated, like my life is on hold. And the third one said, I just feel alone. Mm. Which I've heard from many caregivers at many times.
And I, as bubbly as I am right now, believe me, I know what that, I can bring those feelings into my body right now, because I remember what that felt like and what that feels like. So I just kept doing, and I'm sure that the individuals who responded, you just keep doing what you're doing. And I did it because everything was working until it just wasn't. So this next picture represents, this is what I looked like on the job after about 5 years. I was physically there, but I was not present. And so I remember the day that I walked into the office, closed the door, I turned off the light, I put my head down on the desk, and I started to, and these were my thoughts. It was like, I just want to quit. I have a mortgage. It's not really smart to just quit. I should be looking for a job, but I can't. I'm absolutely exhausted. My bosses had a conversation with me like the week before, and they were like, take intermittent leave. And I was like, no, if I take intermittent leave, I'm going to go home. I am going to get into bed And at any moment that I'm not dealing with my mother's needs, I am going to be in bed and I'm going to put the covers over my head. I knew that I wasn't going to function. I wasn't going to fix anything. I wasn't going to be in a nice conference like this trying to figure out what to do. I was experiencing caregiver burnout. I go to the doctor and I would try to explain to my doctor how I felt, and my blood work said I was fine. So he kept giving me, I used to take so many supplements, and of course they didn't make a difference because I wasn't experiencing burnout because I was doing too much. I certainly wasn't doing the right things, but my burnout was due to emotional fatigue. And I contend that caregiver burnout is a lack of alignment with basic needs. And this is a little more than the general self-care pieces. This is about me as a self-determining adult having this idea about what my life would have been like, and how it was actually playing out. So this is a Maslow's hierarchy of needs. So I'm going to walk you through what my hierarchy was like. Now, of course, every day I was seeing to it that my mother's needs were being met at every level. And I could feel good about that. But here at the bottom of Maslow's hierarchy, we have food, clothing, and shelter. Well, my house was in Georgia. I was in New York. And I think the year before, I had only visited my house twice. I missed being home, and houses do not like to be neglected. My home was neglected. So I'd go home and I'd just see all these things that needed to be done. So that wasn't feeling very good. At the next level is security, financial security. So I had been anticipating that I would have another 10 years that I would be contributing to my retirement. But instead, I was thinking about quitting, like not even getting a job. I was like, I just need to just not do anything in order to get myself together. Love and belonging. I had pushed the man in my life away, and I had not, when I moved back to New York, I had not built a spiritual community. So I didn't have communities that I belonged to outside of my job. And now I was thinking about, leaving. The next is, how we all need to be significant in our lives. And so I had given up my being president of the New York Association of Psychological Type because I just couldn't, I just couldn't handle that anymore because I was exhausted. And at the top, what Maslow's at the top of the hierarchy is self-actualization. We have to feel like our life is progressing, that we're growing, that we're going somewhere. And all of my going and growing somewhere, I didn't understand how caregiving attached to that. So therefore, and that's what my presentation is about. So it's just like everything that was meaningful to me, how I had built my life up to that point was moving away. And for me, that was the source of my fatigue. So the question is, focus is, the question became, how do I want to feel? So I'm in the office, my head is on the desk, and as my thoughts were going around, I just had a moment when I just asked myself, when I said to myself, well, what do I really honestly believe about life? And I said, well, I don't believe life was meant to be a struggle. I was like, well, why are you struggling? Like, what I wanted for myself became more important than worried about how is that going to work? And if you're going to have a job, and are you going to have money, and who's going to do this? I just said, the most important thing right now is I believe that life was never meant to be a struggle, and I'm struggling, and I don't want to struggle. So I actually was relieved that day. I had made a decision inside myself. And the next week, when I had another conversation with my bosses, and I ended up leaving the job with unemployment, I was all smiles. I was relieved, and I was smiling. So this hack of daring to know how you want to feel, it's a little tricky because you can't go, oh, I want to feel better, but I don't feel better. I really would like to, but I won't. It's a matter of just knowing how you want to feel and holding on to that, because knowing that that's really what's important to you. So I leave the office, and I'm happy that I've made a decision, and now I had to ask myself, what if? What's going to happen? Now, asking what if questions, what if I could get a better job? What if I could have a job that was making the same amount of money, but I wasn't having to be in the office sometimes at 6 o'clock in the morning, and I didn't have bosses who were texting me at midnight, and I didn't have to spend 3 hours commuting? What if I could have everything? What if I could win the lottery? What if I could get home? So this is an example of a mindset practice of just being able to ask a question without having to come up with an answer, because it's really about generating within oneself a better feeling. Because basically I had spent the last 4 or 5 years not feeling very good. And so if even in the moment I could relieve, have that feeling of relief and feel good, I wanted to feel good. So the hack is just to learn the skill of asking forward focused questions. And I didn't, I had to learn how to do this. Like it didn't hurt right away. It's like, I don't feel, what if I blah, blah, blah. And then I can't, no, it's just a habit of just asking these questions over and over. Okay, so it's a habit of asking forward focused questions, no backtracking. It actually creates energy inside the body. And what's great about it, what I think mindset practices, I'd have 8 of them in my book. The reason why they're so great is that you can use them anytime, anywhere. Like in the ED, 2 o'clock in the morning, it's freezing cold. There's no chairs. They're making me stand up. I'm finding something to do in order to practice developing a stronger mindset. That way, I was always doing something to better me in support of this road that I was on, which was to be my mother's caregiver, right? I actually had made that decision. So I might as well jump into it and make it work for both of us. And it's really important to learn to be your own coach and your own cheerleader. What a coach does is a coach sees you and your possibility. A coach knows it, gives you knows that there's a skill and they're teaching you a skill, but they believe that you can do it and they're cheering you on. So it's about developing your ability to be your own coach. And I'm not saying this stuff it's simple. I'm not saying it's easy. And I'm also saying it's well worth it. So, continuing on with my story, life would happen, 5 weeks after leaving my job, my mom had a second stroke, and this one incapacitated her. She would need support in all of her activities of daily living from that point forward. It would still be another month before I determined, and I'm sending out resumes, I was interviewing, when I determined that it was important that I was making the decision that I would become now one of her full-time hands-on caregivers. Now, as an organization development professional, right? That's what I was. Strategic planning is one of the tools that we used to help teams navigate change and to succeed in going in new directions. So I took myself on as a client, and I did what I would do for a client at work, and I created a plan. I mean, let's face it, my mother's life had changed. My life had changed. We were now a team, like we were now a mother-daughter team like never before. So I put together a plan. Now, this was not the logistical plan. Yes, I had to reconfigure the house for wheelchairs, and I had to hire people, and I had to figure out how I was going to pay for people. Like her pension was $600 on top of her Social Security. Like that is not enough to pay private pay caregivers, but I had to figure all that out. So I'm not saying I didn't have a logistical plan as well, but today I'm talking to you about the quality of life plan. And that is, how I think about it. It's a life plan. See, what often happens when we're as caregivers for aging adults who have a medical condition, the medical people give us a care plan, a protocol to follow. And we hire people from care agencies, and they have a plan of the IADLs, and you guys get it, activities of daily living. But the point is, there's so much more to being a caregiver than just that. There's legal, and there's figuring out what to do, and there's the financial, and there's all these decisions to make, and having to understand everything about the diagnosis. So what I needed was a life plan. That little care plan about when to give her medication was not enough. And that the life plan was centered around the notion of agency. As a caregiver, as an adult, I had a responsibility to design a life, to construct a life that was going to support me. My mother was also, as an adult, was constructing a life that was going to, that was going to bring her along whatever lessons she was going to learn in life. And of course, our lives were entwined. So it's really critical that that there be a plan about our life, our new relationship as caregiver and care receiver. And creating a plan like this is actually not, the structure of it is very simple. And it's, you take out a journal. I probably wrote mine on my computer. You do take time to think deeply about this. However, the questions are, the structure is simple. First, what does my care receiver want? Now, my mother she was in late stages of dementia. She was aphasic. She was paralyzed on the right side of her body. She had rheumatoid arthritis. So I had to determine what is it that she's wanting to experience, because she's alive. So if she's alive, she's wanting something, right? She couldn't verbally express it, but didn't know what was going on in her head, so I had to make it up. I determined that she wanted to experience the greatest level of independence and functionality as possible. I determined that she wanted to experience love. I experienced that she would want to be still contributing to the world, because this is who she'd been all her life. And I determined that she'd want to have a social life. And I determined that her life lesson was to learn to receive, to learn to accept help and to receive.
That's a good one.
And it was amazing. I always tell the story of that. One of those magic moments was when my mother, she's in bed and she's smiling and she raised her arms and she told me to come to her. So I came to her and she tried to hug me. And I called my brother and I said, "Your mother hugged me today." And he was like, "Our mother?" And I was like, yes. So the idea is, I made it possible for us to create something that we'd never had before by simply being open, that she could still learn, that she could still experience something new, because that was new for her too. She did not hug her children, but okay. Before she left the planet, she had an opportunity to do that. And I'd like to believe that my opening up, I kind of opened that up when I created this plan. So I had a lot of what she wanted. And I asked, what did I want? Well, I wanted to not feel so lonely. I wanted to deal better. I don't even know if I knew it was possible, but I know that I didn't want to feel, that isolate for anybody out there that has that isolation of the house is just utterly quiet. Like the 6 years before, the house was, I would have to be there to have eyes on her, but it's not like we were talking all the time. The house was just eerily quiet and empty, and I didn't go anywhere. And whatever that feeling was that I used to live with so much of the time, I knew I didn't want that. So I started thinking, so I kind of put down that I wanted, emotionally, mentally, physically strong. I wanted to feel good every day. And for the last 5 years, I've been understanding more about what does that mean to me to want to feel good every day. And then finally, the last one was our entwined lives. What did I want for us? Well, of course, let me tell you, a nurse, me changing underpads, me, hugging and loving and doing all that stuff. I just like, oh my gosh, caregiving, that's for other people. I'm in books. I do planning. I do algorithms. I don't do, I don't do this love stuff. But I determined that I understood that I was going to have to lean into new aspects of myself. I was terrified. And I decided for my mother and I wanted us to laugh a lot. I wanted us to laugh a lot. And I can say that in the next 2.5 years, I had more moments of laughing with my mother than I had ever had prior. Because my mother was always busy doing things and she never sat down in front of a television. Well, there's something about being in the not having the mobility to go places that she was sitting, right? And I was deciding what she was watching, but of course she let me know what she liked and what she didn't like. You know, I could tell by the expression on her face. So of course it created a relationship. This phone never rings. Okay, sorry about that. So I created a plan, and I didn't like look at it every day or anything like that, but just making that decision that that's what I wanted for us really put me on the road to have a better experience as a caregiver. And so I have the structure for this plan, it's just this simple. But if you'd like to know more about it, of course, it's in my book. I also have a free download where somewhere in there, it just asks the questions and gives you places to answer if you would like some more support in creating a life plan. Because here's the thing, if you have never sat down and said, where do I want to be 10 years? At the end of my life, what do I want to have experienced? What haven't I done yet that I still want to be able to do? If you've never done that, I'd say this is a good time to put pen to paper and think about your life and what it is you're wanting for your life. Because until you do that, you can't have your caregiving experience support what it is that you're wanting. So that brings us to life hack number 4. So I was following my triple strand plan. I was having a good life as a caregiver. And then one day, I don't know what I was thinking about. I was thinking about something, and I had this realization that I was on my own personal hero's journey. And that's when life got really good. It's like going from living in, it was black and white when I still had the job before the second stroke. And then it was in color after I did my planning, and kind of every day was, how can I, what am I going to do to feel better? What are all the things I'm going to learn so that I can be a stronger, and do that. And then I realized I was on a hero's journey, and all of a sudden I was living in Technicolor. Life got really, really good. So
I like that.
The term hero's journey was coined by Joseph Campbell in his book in 1947, and in which he identified this pattern of events in all the stories that inspire us, from Homer's Odyssey and certainly to Star Wars, because George Lucas said that he read Hero of a Thousand Faces, and he decided to create all of the Star Wars movies all follow the pattern. So the hero's journey. And the issue is, when we think about hero, we see that thing that they accomplished, and we call them a hero because of that thing that we saw them do on the outside of their lives. But the hero's journey is about the journey that the hero takes on the inside, right? That's what the hero's journey is all about. So it starts with the call. The hero is called to an adventure. The hero is called to a mission. Rocky Balboa, he's, working out in this gym, and then all of a sudden he's going to be a contender for the heavyweight championship of the world. Now, my best friend Kathy, was called to, conferred with her parents, and she determined that she would be the sibling that would take care of the parents. And so she calls me one day. Well, this is how it seems to me, because she responded to the call the way she does everything in life. And she's like, okay, I'm going to take care of my parents. I'm going to go to the state of Washington, and I'm going to pack them up, and I'm going to move them to Texas. I'm going to find a senior living for them in Texas. And then I'm going to sell my apartment in New Jersey, and I'm going to move down to Texas. And didn't you have somebody who has a moving company? I need to talk to them because I need to budget that out. This is my incredible best friend, Kathy. She responded to the call and she was off and running. I, on the other hand, said, oh, I'm going to come to New York and help my mother. I'm going to take a job in New York and I'm going to help her age in place. But when I got here and found out her needs were much greater than I anticipated, I continued to do for her, but I also resisted it. I was like probably angry. I was like, what do you mean? This is the job I've been wanting for my entire life. I finally have it. And I get here. And how do I do this? I remember telling my brothers, I can't do this. I can't do this. I can't do this. Well, 6 years later, I finally, just couldn't do it. I just couldn't. Because I didn't step in and respond to it. Now, each one of us, I believe each one of us, I think caregiving is archetypal. I think we're all called to the mission, and how we experience it is that's our road to, okay, so the next step is the initiation. We're all on our own road based off of how we responded to the call. I mean, not surprisingly, Kathy not only moved down there and did the house, she also found herself the most incredible husband. Like, how'd she do that? Because this is how she stepped in. And I'm not saying it was easy, but her experience as a caregiver is very different from mine. And I have other friends whose experiences were much more difficult, on an emotional level than mine ended up being. We each have in the hero's journey, it's called the road of trials, but there's also the mentor, there's also meeting the goddess. There's a lot of things that happen on this part of the journey. And it's not just about, it's not that moment, right? Again, we usually just think about that moment that happens that we go, oh, that's the hero part. The hero part is what the hero has to do to get there. So for instance, with Rocky Balboa, the movie Rocky, I had to watch it the other day because I was like, did he win? Did he lose? Like, I don't remember what happened at the end of the movie. The only thing I remembered was him calling for Adrian, because he didn't care if he won or not. Apollo says to him, there's no rematch. And he said, I don't want one. Because what he had proven to himself, that's what was important about going those 15 rounds. And as a result, he was in relationship, and he was able to express love, and Adrian, they had this right? So that's what it was about for him. He grew and he got what was important to him. The world could think that the title was important, but the hero's journey is about what the hero does. The other one other favorite moment is where you can see it's that hero coming, it's that protagonist coming to that understanding within themselves that they're worthwhile and they're strong and that they can do things. So Kathy Bates' character in Fried Green Tomatoes. So it's that moment when she's in the mall parking lot and she's waiting for to move her car into the spot. And then these younger people speed into the spot right in front of her. And she's looking very like, I can't believe this. Why does this always happen to me? And in that moment, she had that realization and she goes, Tawanda. And she smashes her car into the back of the other car. And she says, face it, ladies, I'm older and I have more insurance. It's that moment, that the hero's journey is that moment that you break through some limiting belief that things have to be a certain way, and you actually have the ability, and you have the ability to do something different, and you can do something different because look at all the stuff you're doing, right? Look at all the things I've been doing. I figured out how to pay for my mother's care at home on no money, right? And I had no money. I had no job, no money coming in, and I was fine. I mean, eventually I sold my house because that was getting a little much after a year trying to pay for a mortgage in a house that I wasn't living in. But I figured all those things out. And from that, I understood that this experience as a caregiver was not just what I was doing for my mother. it was as much about me growing in ways that never could have happened if I stayed on that job. I mean, I might have, that would have been a good life too, but I don't know that I would have developed the level of happiness that I have able to achieve for myself, because I would never have paid that much attention to my own self, right? There's a lot of time to pay attention to it. I had a lot of time to pay attention to myself because I had a lot of days in the house by myself. So a lot of times, with not saying anything, right? So, so quickly, you got to keep going. But my trial was, anyway, I think you guys have an idea of all the challenges that I may have experienced. So the thing about the hero's journey, and I'm really glad I had this context, because the moment that the mission accomplished would be when my mother transitioned. Now, I didn't know if my mother was going to transition 2 years or 20 years. I was legal guardian for my aunt Sissy, who had a stroke at 103. And I was her legal guardian until she was 107. So as far as I was concerned, I could have been in that role for 20 more years. Therefore, I had to figure out, but even if not, I understood that I was growing myself stronger. And with this context of the hero's journey, the last part is the return home. And the thing about it is, the way that all the stories work, your road home is not easy. It's another set of trials. The difference is you're wiser, you can do this. And so the trials that you experience on the return to your own life, where you're feeling like you've got your own life back. You're not in the magical, mystical world anymore. You're back in the ordinary world. You're stronger when you do that. So my life I became Technicolor when I understood. I'd get up in the middle of the night to change underpads and say, yes, this is my, I didn't say yes, I sleepy and this is part of my journey. This is just part of what is strengthening me. How I am dealing with this is strengthening me. All right. So my last thing about the hero's journey is I like movies. So dare to be your own hero on the inside, and then let all the stories that inspire you, just let them inspire you, because that's what they're there for, right? That's the whole point of all these movies, is not only for you to go, yes, that person did it, but to feel that feeling within yourself and to be encouraged that you can do it too. So I don't know what all of that is about. I'm not saying all of that. So that is it. All right. Life hack number 5. So now my mom has passed, and I made it my mission. And I was like, this hero's journey thing, I think there's something to this. And I bet you every caregiver is experiencing some common things. So I said, I'm sending out to understand the common things that all caregivers do. And then I found out that Denise Brown had been thinking and writing about this for 20 years. It's just that I was a caregiver and I didn't know about it. So she calls it the 6 stages of caregiving. I'm going to talk about it as the 6 phases of caregiving. And I'm not going to go into detail about the 6 phases, because that would have been my entire presentation. There's so much information. I'm going to tell you just enough so that you will follow through and follow up and learn about the 6 stages. So number 1, there's 6 phases. And if you learn about them, for each phase, you will learn that there's a key word, there's a strategy, what the pitfalls are, and what the ropes are that can get you out of the pitfall if you happen to fall in. And so, for instance, in the first stage, you may help, like you haven't heeded the call yet, you haven't stepped over the threshold into the magical world of caregiving and EDs and misdiagnoses and all that stuff. The key word at that point is to ask. You're going to ask lots of questions. Your key strategy, however, is to prepare. And it's not just prepare. It's not focused on your care receiver. A lot of that preparation is for you. What might be happening? How should my life change? I might need to make some shifts. I have to tell you that when I left my job to care for my mother, I was the 3rd person to do that in the unit, in the larger unit. One person went home to another country, another person went to Florida, and I just, I'm in New York. I just went from the Bronx to Brooklyn. but this was not uncommon. What for people to leave their job to take care of adults is not uncommon, but you probably know that. All right, so I may help. There's a key strategy, there's pitfalls. And one of my pitfalls that I absolutely fell into was underestimating the warning signs and just being in denial because it just wasn't convenient because it didn't go along with the plan I had for myself. And if I had known about the 6 stages of caregiving, I may have actually taken heed to some of the strategies, and it may have been better off for myself and my mother and my entire family had I known about them. So this may not seem, and there's a number of pitfalls and a number of strategies to get you out of them. And I can't say enough that it's to go ahead and see what you can learn from here about the 6 stages that can support you. Knowing the 6 phases, and basically what I'm saying is there's a lot of this caregiving experience that is predictable because it's archetypal, it's predictable. The 6 phases can tell you about the emotional challenges associated with all of the practical, logistical, medical matters. It also, because it changes at each stage of care of caregiving. At each of the 6 stages, it's different. It can also tell you about the emotional challenges associated with the relationships, relationships with family, your relationship with yourself, relationships with doctors, and and interactions. It talks to you. It can help you understand what you can expect to experience at different phases. It can stop you from getting stuck. Because if you're one of these people who's like, you like doing things, and you might get stuck in stage 3. And I hope you're curious about that. What is she talking about, getting stage? Well, you have to find out more about yourself, know about your own personality, and you have to know about the 3 stages to know, am I going to get stuck at stage 3? Am I going to miss out on stage 5 of actually being present with my care receiver? So I'm just encouraging you to learn as much. And one of my colleagues, Teresa Wilbanks, will be speaking tomorrow morning. And I'm not saying she's going to speak about this, but I am saying to you that she's got some great resources on her website. So I'm just giving a shout out if you're curious and you want to know more about that. I have resources, but I don't have them up on my website. So I'm just sending you someplace that you can learn more about that, because it would be mean for me to share this information with you and then not tell you how to get more info. So that's it for hack number 5. And finally, hack number 6, find your tribes. And this is what the first speaker, I don't know her name.
Dr. Kate.
Yeah, she was like, find your tribes. And I was like, yes, you've got to find your tribes. And even the last speaker spoke about it. So when I say find your tribes, I think there are 4 or 5 different things that I'm talking about. You need to find, you don't need to do anything, but I encourage you to find caregiver friends. There are I ran a group this morning, and I run a meetup group. And a woman, she's now come this week for the 2nd time. And she said, oh, I learned about your group on WhatsApp. I didn't even know that there were caregiver groups on WhatsApp. She said, yeah, somebody told me to come to your group. I don't know who that was. It's just that we're all very generous. Those of us who are in this work, we are here because we want to support people. So there are WhatsApp groups, there are Clubhouse groups, there are Facebook groups. So I have my meetup, there are meetup groups, there are caregiver support groups. You're going to find caregiver friends that will nurture you in a way and will support you differently than the individuals from your ordinary life, right? You're in this special phase of life. And meeting people who are also in this tribe can be very nurturing for you. I'm also saying shared interests and self-development. So there are some other groups, like there's a group, there's a woman who she's a laughing yoga instructor. And when you're a laughing yoga instructor, you have to give free classes. So there's all kinds of groups, things that you might be interested in, book groups. And again, this is about you. This is separate and apart from what you're doing in relationship to your to support your care receiver. So you've got some people that are you're interested in something unique. Facebook will tell you there's a Facebook group for it. So you're going to find some groups around other things that you are personally interested in. I could not live without my accountability partnerships. I have a friend who she's my walk accountability person. She'll text, are we going to go for a walk today? And I was like, yes. And then at night, in the evening, I go, I hope she forgot. I hope she forgot. I hope she forgot. And then she'll call me and I'm like, yeah, putting my boots on. I'm going for a walk. You got it. Accountability partnerships. Yeah. I have my friend Kathy and I have been doing one call once a week for 14 years. Once a week, 14 years. We started when she went into the role of caregiver for her parents. We talk once a week. You have half an hour. If you only have half an hour, you do not spend the half an hour complaining. You have to get to the point and make the call useful to you. So we do peer coaching. I have another group that I call Success Circles, and I do daily calls with them. Focus Mates is another group. It's absolutely free. So if you want to know more about all of these things, I'd be happy to share that with you. But I'm saying accountability is, I have another colleague that I met online. She's in Israel. We meet every week. We've never met in person, but we support each other in our entrepreneurial, goals, right? Yeah. So you got to have accountability and coach and counselors. I take advantage of coaching. My chiropractor gives always new clients always get a session with his coach. So I hadn't been to him for a while, and he was like, did you have a session? Have I given you a session with my coach? And I was thinking, do I want to be honest here? I really don't want to be honest. I love having somebody give me all their attention and support me through stuff. But I was honest with him and I was like, yeah, it was years ago. But I did get my coaching from your coach. Because in this healing work that we are in, we understand the importance of providing really incredible space for people to just be and to find their own answers. And that's what coaches and counselors do. And whenever I have the opportunity, I take advantage and I invite you to make sure that you are doing the same thing for yourself as well. And that
wraps it. So where can our listeners find you?
Okay, so as fate would have it, I've been updating my website all for the last couple of weeks. And last night when I pushed the button, the whole thing went away. And I just said, oh, this is great. I'm a caregiver. Or, I was a caregiver. I'm always a caregiver. I said, no problem. I will figure this out. So I create a very simple bit.ly Tanya Straker web, which at least gives you the same connection information I have here. My email address, my calendar, and I run my Coffee with Caregivers group every Tuesday at 8:30 Eastern Standard Time. You're welcome. It's just a meetup group. It's free. There's no cost. And if I have people who get up in the morning at 5:30 in the morning in California and come. Yeah.
I have caregivers that do that too. Can you email me all that information so yes. I can put it on for everybody?
Yes, I can do that. Since since my website is not up, I'll do my best to get it up. But that is it. Thank you so much.
The last thing, what do you want our caregivers to know?
I want you to know that this very excited, happy Technicolor person did not look like this. This is constructed.
There you go.
I made this happen because I had a choice, I just made it my choice. And it is my mission to support other caregivers to move through that journey as I did, to provide the support for other caregivers the way other people supported me. Make it your intention to grow your life and let every single obstacle that you face, Medicaid, non-payment, the loneliness, I can bring that feeling of loneliness in my body at any time I want, and it does not feel comfortable, but I do that to remember that this is a true thing for people, and it helps to keep me in my mission. So,
and we always have a choice.
Yeah.
Thank you, my friend. Let's chat soon. Thank you, everybody, for being here today. This wraps it up for today. I'm looking forward to everyone coming back tomorrow. Our first speaker tomorrow will be attorney Sean Scott. And Sean Scott, in 33 years, has not had a Medicaid claim denied. So if you want information about that, just tune in tomorrow. We'll also have the wonderful Teresa Wilbanks with Sustainable Caregiving, Kim Saberi, and Dr. London Butterfield from St. Anthony's Memory Disorder, among others. So tune in tomorrow, my friends. Remember, God loves you all the time, and have a delicious day. Thank you.
Thank you.